Okay, so welcome everyone, buongiorno. So we're going to talk about crypto, taxes, and expatriation. So my name is Alex, and I got to know Bitcoin in 2014. I had some crazy friend who was doing mining, and it took me 3 years to understand what Bitcoin is. So 3 years later, in 2017, I purchased my first Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I got a bit scared. A lot of questions arose. How am I going to declare this to the tax authorities? What should I do if I become suddenly rich? And you know, these are all the rich problems that you ask yourself a bit too early. And since I was a lawyer, I said, okay, so why not combine my skills in tax law and my passion for Bitcoin and crypto to kind of fill a gap on the market. So how to help people about crypto taxation, crypto tax return, and how to deal with crypto cash outs and stuff like that. So that's what I do since I opened the firm in 2017, but since 2021, we only focus on crypto investors and crypto entrepreneurs. So who in the room is Swiss resident? Please raise your hands if you live in Switzerland. Okay, that's not bad. And who is from abroad? Okay, so more foreign people than Swiss residents. Don't worry, we will talk about both issues, being a Swiss resident and not being a Swiss resident. And if you want to come to Switzerland, to move to Switzerland, you might find this presentation useful. So, contrary to people's belief, many people think that we first choose a country because of tax reasons. And my experience is quite not the opposite, but it's not 100% true. Meaning, before choosing a country where to live, you're going to check how the country works, if there is a match in a cultural way. And for example, if you have children, you will probably not move to a place where the education is not very good and in a country where it is dangerous. So usually you're going to look at different criteria. And what I've noticed, usually it's a mix of all of these factors, being that what's the country culture? Does it fit my culture? How safe is the country? And how is it for my kids, for my family? And maybe then you ask yourself, okay, so from a tax point of view, is it good? Or maybe you first think from a tax point of view and then you check the other boxes. But usually tax is just one factor between others that you're going to consider. And it's always a game of kind of compromise. What do you compromise for taxes? What do you compromise for quality of life? And there are countries that offer investment programs or citizenship by investment. You probably heard of them. I think this is an important factor to count in, because when you move to a country, you become like a tourist of that country. And if you stay a tourist all your life, maybe it's not so good. So you want to kind of earn points, and when you earn some points, you become a citizen. So the citizen by investment is very simple. You pay a fee and you become a citizen of that country. Usually a lot of Caribbean islands do that. It can be interesting for a tax point of view. And you often get a passport linked to Commonwealth, where you can travel in most of the Commonwealth countries, over 100 countries. So it can be a good way. But there are other countries, like most of countries, such as Switzerland, where you have to stay a couple of years. So this is where I was talking about points. So in Switzerland, you have to stay 10 years. So you have to earn 10 points to become a Swiss citizen. And if you get married to a Swiss spouse, you earn a double of the points. It means you just need 5 years. Then you also have to have some integration. So you have to speak language. So in Switzerland, it would be one of the three national languages. We have 4 languages, but 3 are spoken usually. So, and one more important thing is political stability, because you can, okay, you do your Excel spreadsheet with all the countries, all the positive places, all the positive points, all the everything. But then 1 year later, you discover that the country changed its laws. So this is what happened to Portugal, which was a very famous crypto tax place. They introduced capital gain on crypto. They introduced an exit tax on crypto. And now some people are going away from Portugal because of that. There is Dubai, which can be very interesting because no taxes on personal income. However, they introduced a corporate income tax. So you want to look at a country where you have long-term political stability and no change of laws every year. A quick summary about the different types of taxation. Most people don't realize that most Western countries have a worldwide taxation system based on residence. So basically, if you take residence in a Western country like Switzerland, France, Germany, UK, once you are resident, you are again taxed on your worldwide income. That means if you earn income from abroad, you are going to get taxed. Then there is the territorial system, which can be found like in Panama or Hong Kong, which is a system based that you only get taxed on the local income. There is the non-domiciled status, which was once applied by the UK. It means that you can live in the UK with a special tax status, and you only get taxed on the remittance basis. It means the income you bring in the country. Unfortunately, this regime is going to get cancelled next year in the UK. And of course, there are the countries that don't have any tax at all, which is Dubai, for example. So let's have a look at countries with no capital gains tax, because one of the strategy can be you move to a country that has worldwide tax, let's say Switzerland, but that doesn't have capital gain tax, because then you can use this to cash out your crypto, and then in theory you don't pay taxes on your gains. So here are the most famous countries, the most popular countries in the crypto industry. Of course, I put Switzerland at first, but statistically it's not the first. So what is a capital gain? If you buy something cheap and you sell it expensive, it's the difference. So you buy something at 10, you sell it for 100. So the 90 difference is the capital gain. So countries like these won't tax them. Some of them have conditions. Sometimes you have to keep your investment untouched for 1 year. It means that you cannot trade every month. But some countries don't have any limitations. So here is a summary. I will, just look at the slides. But again, I think Switzerland has an advantage because there is no limit. I mean, there are some criteria about limitation of ownership in the duration, but it's not applied very strictly today by the tax authorities. So basically, if you come to Switzerland, you buy Bitcoin and you sell it with a profit. If you bought it with your private wealth, you will not get taxed. So now let's have a look at countries who pretend to have a favorable crypto laws. So this is just laws about crypto, okay? This is just what you see in the press, that this country is trying to, attract some crypto companies. So this is some information I found on the internet. So if you need more tax advice, please check first with a tax expert in these countries. But basically, these countries have some laws that says, okay, we recognize blockchain technology. You can create your blockchain company here. I know Binance created like a subsidiary or even a company in France. And they're trying to attract these companies, but in an individual tax point of view, it's not as good. In these countries, you will get quite high income tax. You will get tax on capital gains, and you will also have exit tax. So now let's have a look at the countries that are favorable with crypto laws and favorable for taxation for individuals. Switzerland, of course. Switzerland was one of the first countries to have a classification for the tokens for ICOs. Switzerland was one of the first countries to adopt crypto laws in its national laws. So we have the Code of Obligation that has a whole chapter. I mean, it doesn't have a whole chapter, but Switzerland made something very smart. Instead of creating new laws, as most of the countries do, they create a crypto law with everything. So Switzerland just used the existing law and added just a word that says that all this chapter is applicable to cryptocurrency. So it makes the system more stable, more durable, and basically any crypto company is recognized in Switzerland. So crypto assets are recognized, and if, let's say there is a company like doing an exchange, and it holds crypto for its clients, you can segregate those funds from the assets of the company. So there is a very strong protection in case of bankruptcy. So contrary to the United States, if an exchange that has its seat in Switzerland would go bankrupt, the assets of the clients are protected, which is very important. So is Switzerland a tax heaven because of that? Not really, sorry. But I just want to explain why some people think that Switzerland could be a tax heaven. It's mostly because of the forfait fiscal, or the lump sum taxation. So it's a special tax regime that was created for foreigners. Basically, it was a system created for people in their old age, retirees, people who want to take their retirement in Switzerland. So they come from abroad, they come to Switzerland. And how does the tax system work? You have to self-declare the assets you have, the income you earn. And when you live all your life in a foreign country, so this was before the age of the internet, the government has no way to check what assets do you have, what wealth do you have, what income do you earn. So basically, you have to trust what people say. So they created this expenditure-based taxation, which means, okay, come to Switzerland, and instead of telling us whatever you want, just tell us how much money do you spend every year, and we will tax you on that. So this was the original idea for old people who want to come in the mountains and live in a beautiful country and have control over their taxation. But it became the most famous tax regime for the rich people. And nowadays, every year it gets a bit more strict. So here are the details. Basically, there is a difference if you're from EU or from outside of EU. So these are the amounts that we take into consideration as your expenditure. There is a simple calculation you can do. It's supposed to be the rent you pay per year five times. You multiply the rent you pay per year per 5. That's the amount you're supposed to spend in Switzerland. So they're going to calculate the taxes on that. So what does it mean? It means that if you're EU citizen, you will pay between 150 or 250,000 per year. These are kind of the minimum taxation for the lump sum taxation. And if you're not EU, it can be higher. The advantage of this system is that once you have this number with the tax authorities, so usually what we do, we go to the tax authorities, we explain to them all the situation, the place you're going to live, the rent you're going to pay. And then they say, okay, let's agree on 600,000 expenditure. So let's say you pay 250,000 per year. And then you don't have to file a tax return. So every year it's the same. But there is a big drawback for this, is that you cannot pursue a lucrative activity in Switzerland. It means you cannot work in Switzerland. You cannot have mandate with Swiss clients. You cannot get paid from Swiss companies. And it's quite a deal breaker, because if you're from the crypto industry, usually you're between 20 or 40 years old. You don't want not being able to work in Switzerland, and then you become paranoid when the state will check, will it discover that I did something with a Swiss client. So usually we don't recommend lump sum taxation for crypto people because of this limitation. And also because most people in crypto, they just need to cash out once and then they can live out of crypto. And because there is no capital gain tax, sometimes it's just better to be at the normal taxation. Okay, so now let's see how does normal taxation work. So if you're a Swiss resident, how does your crypto investment get taxed? So in Switzerland, we have basically 3 taxes that applies to crypto. There are more, so this is the small letters underneath, but it can get quite complex. So we'll focus on income tax, capital gains, and wealth tax. So how is income calculated in Switzerland? So the first rule is you have to declare your income, of course. But some people forget or don't do that. So the tax authorities have a theory. It means that you also have to declare your wealth. And if your wealth grows from one year to another, they will consider it as income. So then you will have to tell them, no, 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 I have an exception. This is not income, it's something else. And the most important exception we have is the exception of 16 paragraph 3, which is exemption of capital gains. It means that if you invested your private wealth in something, it can be art, a car, it can be shares, stocks, bonds, crypto, and then you sell it with a profit, you will not get taxed. Okay, this is the rule. But then there are also exceptions to this rule that we're going to see later. But let's say you cash out successfully without any tax. Then there is wealth tax. It can vary from 0.13% to 1%. So Geneva has the highest wealth tax rate in Switzerland. But we have the most beautiful city, so it can worth it. But this is what is great about Switzerland. You have this competition between cantons, so you can have really different taxation depending on where you live. And even if you choose your canton, you still have to be careful in which municipality you're going to live, because there can be differences of 0.2% between municipalities. 1% doesn't seem high. So for someone coming from a country where they have like a flat tax, a lot of countries have a flat tax on capital gains around 30%. They make the calculation, okay, so either I pay 30% in my home country or I come to Switzerland and pay 1% per year. Sometimes it can worth it, but sometimes it can be expensive as well, because this 1% also applies to the companies you have. So let's say you create a company and this company gets a high valuation, you will get taxed on your wealth for that. So the question we have the most often is, if I invest in crypto, am I a private or a professional investor? Because if I'm private, I will not get taxed. If I'm professional, there will be tax. How come? Because we have this rule about the general rule about independent activity. So if you earn income from something that is not a salary, you are taxable. And let's say you trade crypto every day, you use leverage, they will consider you as a professional investor, and therefore taxes can be quite high. So if we take, for example, Geneva, by any chance, it would be 43% the maximum rate on income tax. So you should be very careful not to fall under the professional section, otherwise, yeah, it can hurt. So how do we know if we're self-employed or not? There was a decision by the federal court that came out with this yellow paper. It wasn't yellow, but it's easier to read. So it means that if you systematically plan your activity, if you do frequent operations, if you kind of have some skills in that, and all your life you did trading and then you suddenly become a crypto trader, if you use foreign funds, you can be qualified as a professional. What is important is that these are not conditions, these are indicators. Basically, it means it's very vague. Because there are situations when you feel 4 of these things and you're still a private investor. Sometimes you can feel one of these indicators and become professional. So I'm going to try to be more clear, but it won't be easy. So again, it's not cumulative. So one indicator can classify you as a professional. So let's make a game together. So sorry for those who were here last year. This is the same case law I presented last year because Swiss case law does not evolve so fast, like a lot of things in Switzerland. So let's do a game together. So there is a urban architect who ceased his activity in the 80s, and then he devoted himself for a hobby, which was collecting like antique posters, like you see in the background. So he began buy them, and he discovered that this thing can earn a lot of value, and he can sell them for a higher price. In 2003, he sold for $300,000 worth of posters, and he financed his family's lifestyle through these sales. So please raise your hands if you think that this person was qualified as a professional investor. Okay, and please raise your hand if you think he was not taxed because it was not professional activity. Okay, I see a bit more hands for not taxed, so sorry, but he got taxed. The thing that made the difference is that it was an activity that was systemic and planned. He had some professional knowledge in the field, and he supported his lifestyle and his family's lifestyle with the income he earned from that. And I think the biggest mistake he made was quitting his job or not having any job on the side, because he was clearly living out of this. So let's try another one. There is a very famous Swiss artist, Giacometti, who did some weird statue. And so there was a collector who was active in the world of art, and he bought a statue in the 70s, and then he sold it. He sold 40%, so you can sell a part of the statue, so it's like tokenizing before even having crypto. He sold 40% of the statue for 1.2 million, and he did 7 sales in 13 years. So do you think he was qualified as a professional trader or not? So raise your hand if you think he was a professional trader and taxed. Okay, very few hands. And raise your hand if you think he was not taxed. Okay, so this time the majority got it right. So he was not taxed because they considered it was not a systematic and planned activity. He did only like 7 sales during a lot of years.
Even if he was a professional in activity.
Yes. So this will come later, but I will tell you that the link with the professional activity is not the number one condition. So now it's what they call a secondary condition. So it's not the most important. But here, and there was no foreign funds, which is very important. He bought it from his own wealth. There was no systematic and planned activity, and he did just a couple of sales during 7 years. Okay, a last example. So a driving instructor, when you learn how to drive, you have to pay an instructor. Began to buy stocks, during the weekends. He began to buy stocks and sell them, but still in 4 years, he made a total of 1.2 million for 59 stock transactions. So again, raise your hands if you think he was taxed as a professional. Yeah, okay, 10, 15. And raise your hands if you think he was not taxed. Okay, so the majority got it right, so he was not taxed. But again, it's almost impossible to know. This is what I tried to show you, is that it really depends on the mood of the judge. But we have all those rules. There is a question, but maybe the question, the microphone, where is the microphone? Or maybe do we do the question in the end? Okay.
Just a question regarding the amount of transaction. Could it be the indicator as well? Because here is like 15 a year, and the other was like 12,000. I mean, is this an indicator for professional activity?
Yeah, I will give you an example of what's not to exceed. Yeah, it comes after. So it's just to show you how uncertain the result is. And this is how you should see when you invest in crypto. Basically, you're never sure if you're going to get taxed or not. But still, there are some guidelines, okay? So I will try to reassure you. I mean, basically, I say here that there are no guidelines, which is true. For crypto, there is no guideline specific for crypto, for taxation. However, there are some kind of papers and documents we can use. So there was in 2012 a circular that the authorities published, which was for trading of stocks, okay? Because we had the same problem before. We had this problem with real estate investors. So let's say I build a house, I sell it. Okay, I'm a private investor. But let's say I build 2 houses and sell them. Am I private or professional? Then the case happened with wine collection. I buy 1 bottle of wine and sell it. Okay, it's a hobby. But I buy, I don't know, 3 million worth of wine and sell it. Am I still a private investor? And then, of course, it happened with the stocks. So the tax authorities created guidelines, but it's not bounding, so it doesn't have immediate legal effect to the citizens, but the tax authorities will look at these guidelines. So what do they say? So again, I don't want to scare you, but this is what the document says. Basically, they don't tell you that you don't have to exceed this, otherwise you become professional. They turn it the other way around, which is, I think, a bit confusing. They say, if you respect all of the 5 conditions here, then you will not get taxed, for sure. But it's very difficult to fulfill those 5 conditions. So it says that you have to hold your crypto for 6 months. It says that the total value of transaction should not be 5 times the beginning of your investment. So let's say you invest 100K in crypto in the beginning of the year. It means that the total volume of the transaction during the year should not exceed 500K. Then it should not replace your income. It's considered that it replaces your income if it represents more than 50% of your income. And it's not foreign funds, so you don't ask money from your friends to invest. And on the same way, under number 4 falls also the leverage category, because if you do leverage, it's considered foreign funds, so it's an indicator for professional use, professional investment. Okay, and derivatives. So if you use derivatives more than just hedging your position, okay. So again, I met none of my clients who had all these 5 conditions on the same time, okay? So this is why I think this is not maybe the right way to proceed. You should go the other way around, meaning that the indicators we saw here on the yellow paper, these are the real ones, okay? These are the ones that come from the case law. And what will happen is that basically if you there are 2 indicators which are the most important, I would say. The one is foreign funds. Don't use foreign funds. Use your own wealth. Use the money you have in the bank to buy crypto, okay? Or if you sell your car, it's fine. But don't borrow money from people or from banks, and don't use leverage. Or if you do, make sure that the authorities don't notice. And the other thing is, the systematic and planned activities. So really, if you live off crypto, you should really have another activity on the side. You should have an income. You should have you should fit in a box. So the best way to do that is to create a company, and then you become the employee of your own company. Ideally, it can be a company about anything, but not crypto investing, okay? So the company should have another activity than crypto investing. And basically, if you don't fulfill these 2 conditions, so foreign funds and living off crypto, you shouldn't be treated as a professional. So my recommendations is that when you do your Swiss tax return, so you have to declare your worldwide wealth and worldwide income. if your wealth jumps from one year to another, make sure to write under observations, okay, my wealth jumped because I invested in crypto, and this crypto earned in value, there was the bull run, so it explains everything. I would also say, maybe tell the authorities the crypto you own at the end of the year. So not just tell them I own crypto, put a sheet where you put the ticker of the crypto, the name of the crypto, the quantity you have, and the value at 31st of December. Why? Because if you declared it and you still have it the year after, again, they cannot tell that you earned this income from something else. You can easily prove mathematically that you bought it early, the value increased, and you sold it high. So you should not be taxed if you declare this way. Do not quit your job to live on crypto. I mean, you can do it, but then create your own company and try to fit in a box. So it's always better to have, the salary slip every month and the salary certificate by the end of the year. Try having different activities, so not just focus 100% on crypto trading, otherwise you increase the risk. And try to stay as close as possible as what I call the safe harbor rules. So these were the 5 rules I showed you in the earlier slide before. And maybe one strategy that can be good is if you have like a very hard crypto activity, so you make a lot of trades, you do leverage, you trade meme coins like crazy, maybe do that with a company. Then the company will get taxed, but the company taxation in Switzerland is 14% approximately, 14%. And then you can still keep a part of your crypto under your private wealth. So as I call that a hodl bag. So you can still earn income from your company as salary and sometimes sell your personal crypto without taxes. And I think that's one of the best strategy. So what are the benefits of expatriating to Switzerland? So tax optimization strategy. So what I said, so choose well your canton, choose well your municipality, then hold your crypto. And if you do a strong crypto activity, maybe do that with a company. And there is one more thing, is that if you come from abroad, you should check if there is an exit tax. I know that some countries don't have exit tax on crypto. Specifically France doesn't have exit tax on crypto. It means that if you come from a country without an exit tax and you come to Switzerland with a lot of crypto, Switzerland would not check if it's private or professional back in time. It will be just a transfer of wealth from one country to another. So even if you come with millions from abroad, Switzerland, we just consider it's a transfer of wealth from abroad to Switzerland, and you will not get taxed on income, only on your wealth. And if you do like active trading, staking, so it's better to do it in a company. And as I said before, company structure may still allow capital gains tax exemptions if you hold personally some crypto. Be careful when you move from a country to Switzerland. It's always easy to create a new residence, especially in Switzerland. Basically, it's just forms to fill, and you should have a place to live, so find a place to rent. But what is difficult is leave your previous tax residence and cut off the links you have with this country, because if they know that you have wealth, they will look after you. So they will check whether you had really cut the ties with your home country. They will check if you still have what we call the center of vital interest. A lot of people always check the days, how many days you have to stay in a country. So that's not always the thing to check, because you can stay, I don't know, a lot of days in Switzerland, but still remain tax resident in another country. It's because what you have in international tax treaties, they will check where the center of vital interest is. It means where do you have your interest, where do you have your family, where do you have your work, to which school do your children go. So if, let's say you have a family and you come alone in Switzerland, and you don't divorce, you don't separate officially with your wife, and your children continue to live in your home country, they will not accept your expatriation, okay? They will continue to tax you as if you never left. So very important, like if you take this decision, you should come with your family, you should try to find a job in Switzerland or where you want to go. If you don't find a job, create a company, be employed by your own company, and make sure that there is no exit tax from the country you live. Okay, so I think I'm finished with this presentation, so let's answer the questions. So you have to use the mic to answer the question, please. So raise your hands and feel free to ask anything. So thank you.
Hello. How much is the wealth tax in the Ticino canton?
I think it's around 0.8, but you should double check, okay? But it's under 1%, under 1 and probably 0.8. And wealth tax is, it's not a flat tax. So if you have a low wealth, it's lower. And more your wealth grows, usually it's around 5 million. Around 5 million is the maximum rate. And I think in Ticino is somewhere around 0.8%.
Hello. So in Switzerland, there is no difference between, let's say, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or meme coins. There are just all cryptos. So Bitcoin is kind of security, not commodity. It's
in a tax point of view, commodity or security doesn't make any difference. It's just considered as a movable asset. So basically, if you just buy any crypto, it's the same tax regime. There is a different treatment for staking. So if you earn money from your crypto with staking, mining, or even airdrop, these are taxable events. So these are maybe the exceptions. But if you just buy crypto, hold and sell, it should be fine.
And one last question. Is the same with gold? If I come with like 10 kilos of gold to Switzerland and I sell a little bit every year, is it the same as I come with like 100 Bitcoin and I sell a little bit every year?
Yes, the same regime applies to gold.
Okay.
Because as you said, it's also the same even for art, for painting, even if you buy a car. So anything that is purchased with your private wealth, exemption of capital gain can apply. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. I would like to ask you something. Yesterday I saw a real estate agency here in Lugano that it was written you can buy a house with Bitcoin. If my Bitcoin are without KYC and I want to buy a house, they are taxable or not?
Are you a Swiss resident?
No.
Okay, if you're not a Swiss resident, it doesn't matter so much. I mean, it will depend, because you will pay taxes on the real estate, but this is all the real estate tax, okay? So if you rent it out, you will pay tax on real estate. But your question is, will you get taxed on your Bitcoin for selling it?
Yeah, if this is a way to avoid taxation buying something with Bitcoin.
You have to check with your country of residence if it has capital gain tax. If your country of residence has capital gain tax and gets aware of the fact that you sold Bitcoin with profit, then they will tax you. If you're a Swiss resident and buy house with crypto, if the crypto was declared in your tax return, usually you should not be taxed because, again, it's a profit on your private investment. If it's not declared, it's a bit more problematic because the tax authorities will see 1 year you don't have a real estate, next year you have a real estate, and the first question is that, where did you get this real estate from? And then you will have to explain afterwards what you did, and it's always the worst strategy to explain after. It's better to explain before.
So even if the Bitcoin are without KYC, it's not a good option because anyway they will come after and ask you where did you take the money from, right?
It depends what you mean by KYC, because it can be KYC'd by a platform, but maybe you did not declare it. So the question is, did you declare it in your home country? If yes, do they have a capital gain tax? If yes, they will tax you. But if, again, a lot of people do that without telling any authority, and they don't get taxed, but they don't get taxed until the day they get the information. So usually tax authorities are not efficient. They work very slowly, and it often happens that 10 years later they catch someone who did something 10 years before. Because in Switzerland it's 10 years, the prescription, for the tax authorities to tax you, they have 10 years. So they have 10 years to check what did you do, what did you forget to declare, and everything.
Okay, thank you so much.
How does the Swiss tax authority determine the price of Bitcoin in order to have a tax value?
Very good question. So Swiss tax authorities are quite modern. They have a list of crypto published every year. You can find it on the Federal Tax Administration website, but they have like 30 or 40 crypto. And I think they take like an average value over the year. So sometimes it's better to use their value than the value you see on CoinGecko or on CoinMarketCap. So you should check on the Federal Tax Authorities. I think it's even in English, so you can.
So how do they determine it exactly? Is it a daily average over the year?
I think, I'm not sure, but it's kind of average price during the whole year. And you have to declare it. Otherwise, if you don't have the average price, just declare it at the value at the 31st of December.
Yeah, I believe that value, talking about Bitcoin in this case, is given by the Swiss tax authority.
Yes, for Bitcoin, yes, for Ethereum, Solana.
Yeah, I'm just talking about Bitcoin.
For the most important coins. But if you have like less famous coins, you can take the value you see on exchanges, but you have to convert it in Swiss francs.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. Fantastic. Just a question about professionality, because not everyone is employed in a trading company or taking advantage of trading, but there are a lot of professionals that are working like I don't know, marketing activities, administration, or programmers.
Yeah, that's good. The less you have a link with crypto, the better it is.
People that work for cryptos but doing this stuff.
It's fine. I would say, I don't know. I went a bit fast through the slides, but the link with the professional activity is what the federal court said. It's a secondary condition, meaning that it's less important that the funding, the external funding, that the repeated activity, the volume, and things like that. So if you work in crypto industry, it doesn't mean that you're a professional trader. And even if you used to do trading before, it doesn't mean that what you did right now is professional trading, because we have to look at all the elements, all the details. But what is weird in Swiss tax law is that usually tax authorities have no details. They just have the value of your crypto at the end of the year. And it's only if they notice a big change that they begin to ask questions. So this is where I think it's better to be like preventing the problem before it happens. So maybe to be a bit more transparent at the beginning, tell them what crypto you have, what value does it have. And if it gains in value, you don't need to explain everything from scratch. And there is less chance that they ask other questions. Yes, there is a question here.
Thanks for the presentation. So let's suppose I want to keep my coins for the next 20 years. I'm going to hold. Why should I declare? Why should I give this metadata to the government? Either way, I'm going to be taxed with zero.
Yeah, so you can choose. So the law says you have to declare, but of course a lot of people don't declare. Most people who come see us, they did not declare. And I think it's because it's so volatile that sometimes people think that it can go to zero and doesn't worth spending time on declaring for something that might go to, not zero, but can lose value. What happens usually is the day you want to buy a real estate or you want to put this money into circulation, you want to put this money in a bank, then you need some proof that the money is tax compliant. So this is the time when you want to declare. And we have people who did not declare for 6-7 years. But then there is an option, it's called voluntary disclosure. So it's perfectly legal and okay in Switzerland to declare something that you did not declare in the past. And you can do it once in a lifetime. I mean, you can do it more than once, but if you do it once, you will not have any penalty. And then it's okay. You will not get fined. You will just have to pay taxes for the past 10 years. And usually it's just wealth tax, so it's not too expensive to pay backwards 5-6 years of crypto holding. But you can not declare, I mean, you can. I shouldn't say that as a lawyer, but it's an option.
Thanks.
Yes, I just wanted to say that there's not much you can do. Even federal tax says it's worth 50%, and the year afterwards it's worth 100%, and then it goes up 100%. So there's not much you can really do. Just rebounding on the point you said just before that.
So what is the question, or?
No, there's no question. It's
Oh.
just because you said, you declare what you say, but if you declare the same, but authorities say it goes up 100%, and they often do that. I mean, it happened to me on 2022 and 2023. It goes up 100%, and there's not much you can do. You've not done anything. There's no staking, nothing. But
so that's the best scenario. If the crypto you hold, you declared them in the past, then it went up. Then you just write in the tax return, crypto went up because of the markets.
But that's the funny part. You have to tell them, you said
it's
gone up 100%.
You have to tell them. You have to tell them, because otherwise they will ask questions. Why did your wealth grow so much?
Yeah, but they don't make the link themselves. Yeah.
I have a funny story about that. So I had a client who had very young, invested just a couple of thousands very early, and then his wealth grew to 2 million in like a couple of years, and he declared his crypto. And it was funny because he also I think he was on vacation for 2 months, or he did not work 2 months during the year. And I was expecting the tax authorities, ask questions. How come by your age your wealth grew from 0 to 2 million? Please explain us. No, they asked, why didn't you have income in November and December? Really? So they care more about your income than crypto. It could have been the other way around, but sometimes they don't really make the link. They don't really, or maybe they just didn't want to understand crypto, and they said, well, let's just tax on what we can understand.
Hi, I'm not sure if I understood this, but do I need to, in order to benefit from crypto taxation in Switzerland, do I have to live 10 years, or I can move and start benefiting from taxes?
Yeah. So when you take residence in Switzerland, you become tax liable in Switzerland. So from that day, you can benefit from the Swiss tax regime. But if you come from another country, make sure to divorce. No, I'm joking. But make sure to cut the ties with the country you come from. So an example is rent and apartment. So let's say you have a 1,000 square meter apartment where you live. I don't know, Italy, France, Germany, UK. And then you come to Switzerland and you rent a very small studio, and you're never there, and you have no links with Switzerland at all. That's a problem, because they're going to check this information, and they might consider that you never left your home country. So it's important to come to Switzerland, take residence, and then cut the ties with your home country. It can be by moving with your family or cutting the ties as much as you can. Of course, then you don't need to sell everything, but still make sure that you have more interest in Switzerland than in your home country.
Okay, thank you. And about the exit tax, you meant, for example, I live in Italy and I moved to Switzerland. In Italy they have a exit tax on crypto. So let's say I move to Switzerland. On the day I move, they basically they consider it like if I sold that day, and they apply capital gain tax because I moved,
Yeah.
and like if I sold, right? That's
Exactly.
it.
Yes.
Okay,
So you have to, when you leave a country, you have to fill the last tax return, and usually they ask, do you have assets? I'm not even sure if they ask you have crypto, but they ask, do you have movable assets that have earned in value, and you have to declare, yeah, and they tax you when you leave, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Someone asked earlier if there was any risk about not declaring your crypto in your wealth, and the main risk is that if the tax authorities discover that you have crypto and you didn't declare it, that they reconsider your crypto assets and wealth into revenue. And wealth in Switzerland is only taxed up to 1%, but revenue can be taxed up to 45%. So, and if they come them to you, it's much worse than the opposite. So
Exactly, yeah.
be sure to declare your crypto, like paying even 1% per year every year on 5 million. It's much less than paying 35% on 5 million.
Yeah, tax authorities can be very harsh when you not do your obligations correctly. So if you file your tax too late, you get what we call office taxation. You get taxed automatically, and usually they invent income you did not have. So they will tax you on income you did not have, just to make sure that you pay the price for not being compliant and not following the rules. And same thing happens if you don't declare, and if they notice afterwards, they will put all the penalties imaginable to you, even those you did not expect. And then it's a big fight to come back. Sometimes it's possible, but sometimes they can be very aggressive in their position. Exactly.
Hello. I've borrowed money for purchasing Bitcoin. What if I repay in the law before moving? It will be considered as a...
So if you were you outside of Switzerland or in Switzerland?
Outside.
Oh, if it's outside, it's fine. Again, if you move from outside to Switzerland, they will not check if it's professional or anything.
Okay.
So it should be fine. But maybe don't keep this loan for too long. Of course, the safest thing is to pay back the loan. Or maybe you can move to Switzerland by having debt, so it's fine. But if you are in Switzerland and you want to invest in crypto, yeah, maybe don't do it. Don't do it with other people's money, or you can make a, yeah. I wanted to say a donation, but donation can be taxable. So yeah, just be careful with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. So thank you very much for your talk. Just to understand if I got it right. So let's imagine that you have a non-Swiss, completely no KYC Bitcoin, let's say from mining. Is it correct that if I come to Swiss as a Swiss resident, that's just a transfer of wealth, so they won't check if it's professional or private?
Yeah.
So as long as you don't declare your no KYC coins, you can then buy a house in Switzerland once you are a resident.
There is one thing that I didn't mention here. It's in theory, yes. So the tax authorities will not ask questions, but the banks will. So you will need to find a bank, and the bank will check everything. So they will check where it comes from. If it's from mining, you have to provide proof of mining. So again, the authorities will not really bother. They will say, okay, you're a wealthy person, you came from abroad. But the banks will really ask a lot of questions. And so the banks will do the strong KYC. But once you go through this bank phase, then it's fine.
As long as it's not the state. It's better the bank than the state, honestly.
Sorry?
Better the bank than the state. So
Better the bank?
I mean, if it's not the state that's checking, you can always find a bank who's a little bit more lenient, maybe, or
Yeah, because when you come from abroad, the state doesn't really matter. They will tax you on what you declare. And let's say you want to use that money in Switzerland, so you'd better declare it. And they don't mind if it's professional, private, or even from drugs. They don't care. I mean, they don't care. They will not check, really. They leave that to the bank. And but I would say the bank is getting more and more difficult. And I would say that I spend more than half of my time fighting with banks to approve the funds of clients. And honestly, it's more difficult to deal with banks than with the tax authorities, because tax authorities don't really know everything about crypto. So if you declare everything right, they would say, okay, why not? But the banks will check everything. So, but it's possible, yeah. What you said, everything is possible. You just need to find the right bank that accepts the funds.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What if you bought Bitcoin a long time ago and you don't have any records of you buying it? Is there going to be problems in the banks to prove them that those Bitcoins are legal?
Again, I have a funny story regarding that. So I think the client who went to 2 million from nothing, he bought his first Bitcoin in Swiss train station. You can buy tickets from a machine and you can buy Bitcoin from there. So he literally bought his first Bitcoin on a train ticket. And he was very diligent. He saved the ticket, and he sent me the picture of the ticket. And of course, it was easier to deal with the bank. But if you don't have the proof of purchase, some bank will ask just to make the story credible. Maybe email exchange, any proof you have. It will depend on the bank. Some are very strict, some are less strict. I would say retail banks, forget it. Only private banks accept a large amount of crypto, and they have the technology. Some private banks have the technology to do
What's the
on-chain.
difference between private banks and retail bank?
Private banks are more expensive, but you can. They are the one dealing with big amounts of money. So let's say you want to cash out 3 million in crypto. You go to UBS, impossible. You go to. Don't go to Credit Suisse. It doesn't exist anymore. But any Swiss retail bank, it's very difficult because they have to check if it's not, compliant. It's not money laundering, and they don't have the tools for on-chain analysis. So I know some private banks who have developed these tools. They have on-chain analysis. They do the analysis in the bank so that they check if your funds are clean, and if they say yes, okay, bring the money. But then, of course, you have to pay fees, and they will ask for management and stuff like that. But for a large amount, nowadays it's still better to cash out with private banks than retail banks.
Okay. Quick question. So you... Right here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Say you have assets in the U.S., like a house and maybe crypto in an exchange, and you become a Swiss tax resident. Do they consider those assets as part of your wealth that has a wealth tax here in Switzerland?
So real estate is kind of the exception. You get taxed in the place where the real estate is. So Switzerland will not tax you on real estate, but you have to put it in the declaration. Same from every movable assets. You have to declare everything. What might happen with the states is some kind of double taxation because you have to file a tax return in the US. There is the tax credit system which should offset the double taxation. And but yes, in the Swiss tax return, you have to declare everything. That's another question if they have a way to check you have real estate or not. But it was a very common practice until like 10 years ago, not to declare real estate, because it has a very low tax impact, and usually people said, "But it's not their matter. I will not declare." But now everything is getting more and more strict, so everyone has to declare real estate, even if they don't get taxed. But it still can have an impact on your taxes because it changes the tax rate. So it will enter into your wealth, and the tax rate for your wealth would be a little higher by declaring those assets.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a question. If you are a Swiss tax resident for like with an income from another job, and then you do like some trading in your weekend or whatever, like the first example that we saw, Then you declare your income from the job, which is okay, plus your income from this trading, like meme coins or whatever. And then when do you get like the confirmation that for the tax authorities this is good, so you don't need to pay this capital gain tax because you declared, so potentially you are fine? I mean, like 1 year later they say, okay, we checked, you're good, and then you're sure that they don't come back?
Yeah. We never really know when you have the okay for life from the tax authorities. But usually what I do is if you declare your crypto and you get taxed on your crypto on your wealth, and they did not ask questions, I consider that the file is closed and they accepted it as capital gains. But in theory, they have 10 years to come back, so you're never 100% sure. But it's a bit more difficult for them to come back if they don't have new proof. So again, if you're transparent in your tax return, they tax you on what you declared, there is no chance they will get new proof that it was professional. So I would say you are safe. So unless they get access to some information where you borrowed that money, for example.
Okay, so basically when you get the confirmation that you need to pay this wealth tax based on your wealth, then you should be safe. Okay.
I think it's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And even if they ask questions, you answer those questions, then they tax you. I also consider that the file is closed, and usually they will not open it again. And the biggest risk in Switzerland is not that the tax authority gets the information on the internet. It's more that someone whistleblows you. So someone tells the tax authorities, oh, my neighbor bought a Ferrari. I don't know how he did that. Please check his tax return again. Okay, I'm really sorry, but it's we need to go. I will be on the networking. You can find me on the app if you really want to one-on-one meeting, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. But thank you again for your participation. Thank you.